they're still here.
Do you know it was warmer here than it was in Charleston this morning?
They're really.
Colder in Charleston, South Carolina this morning than it was here. So I can't complain too much about the cold. I can. I will. So, anyways, we're going to talk a little bit about caregiving, short caregiving thing, and then more about what happens at the end of life. Because when we come back from lunch, we're going to be talking about burial and dealing with funeral homes and how to prepare a body, and kind of tightening up on some of the stuff that he talked about this morning. So, 1 in 5 Americans are caregivers. How many people in here have already been caregivers? A lot of us. How many people expect to be caregivers? That many again. I was the primary caregiver to my grandmother, my mother, my father, my in-laws, all of whom we either care for either in our home or their home. Like you said, we had 3 parents that lived with us at the same time over about a 6-year period. They were all there together. We planned for years that they were going to come and, can everybody hear me? Okay, a little bit more. So we planned for years that they were going to come and live with us. So we sold our house in Mount Pleasant, which is an upscale area outside of Charleston, and pretty much moved into the hood. Which was a good thing because now it's revitalized and it's the most growing area. But anyway, we had to remodel this house. It was all on one floor. We remodeled it and made it a nursing home. We're still living in it. It'll be all ready when we need it. But anyway, one thing we didn't plan on is they all came together. They all came within 2 weeks of each other. That was a real shocker. We knew we were going to be primary caregivers. We knew that there was nobody in the family that was going to help us. We received a lot of criticism and advice, but not one of our family members helped us except our sons, who were very valuable resources. Caregiving is not for everybody, and having your loved one live in your home is not for everybody. It's very stressful. We started out with no help. I burned out quickly. I was still working. I wasn't planning on having these parents here at this time. I thought I would have a little bit of leeway to make better arrangements. I found out I was crying all the time. My father had a nurse, and his nurse came with him. He just moved from Mount Pleasant, moved 20 miles up the road with us. His nurse came with him. My in-laws moved from Raleigh, where my father-in-law said they had nursing care, but they didn't. An Orthodox neighbor was taking care of my mother-in-law and said, I can't do it anymore. I'm bringing them to your house. So he refused to pay for any nursing care. He wanted my father's nurse to take care of all of them. So she quit. She was out of there. And every time that I hired somebody, I would come home and I'd say, where's so-and-so? I got rid of them. So the last straw was one day, we had 2 with Alzheimer's. They were, kind of pretty much out of their mind. And my father-in-law had Parkinson's and some dementia. One of those rush days, and I thought, well, everything's relatively quiet. Let me go take a shower. So, I heard the doorbell ringing, so I threw on some clothes and ran down. It was the mail lady. She said, and she, knew us and everything. She said, your mother-in-law is climbing over your brick wall. Now, my mother-in-law was 70. One of the first things to go was her verbal abilities. She was in great shape because she was always so agitated that Barbara, the Orthodox neighbor, and her were walking 5 miles a day every day. So she was in better shape than I was. So she just hopped over that brick wall. So when I was going out to get her back in the house, I looked down the street and my father's down the street. And I'm like, oh no. So I got in the car, drove down, said, Dad, where are you going? I'm going to Pittsburgh. I'm going to visit my dad. So my father was from Pittsburgh. And I said, that's a long walk. Get in, I'll drive you. So I got him into the garage and I said, how about a grilled cheese sandwich? It sounds great. He forgot all about it. We went inside. But that was kind of the last straw. I mean, they would rattle our doorknobs until they were loose so they could get out. And we had we have an acre that they can walk around anytime they want. We took them out to church. It's not like they were trying to have to escape, especially his mother. She just, they both wanted to go home. And my dad thought home was Pittsburgh. So we kind of had to come to Jesus with my father-in-law and said, guess what? You guys are going to a nursing home. My dad's staying here, but you two are going to a nursing home if you can't be nice to me. So we hired help. So in the last, it started out with a couple hours a day, and towards the end, we had help 16 hours a day. I took the night shift. We had 2 amazing women that were with us the whole time, just unbelievable. And a lot of people have said to me, oh, there's a special place for you in heaven. Your place is just assured for what you did. No, caregiving is fraught with spiritual peril. I went to confession more times when I had my parents. I mean, I was constantly in confession. And we're often asked about caring for somebody with dementia. If your loved one has cancer, you might know, they have approximately 6 months or a year to live. But with dementia, you don't know. They get sicker by the inch. So, it's hard to know when to call hospice or when you need to move them in your house. Yes, they get sicker by the inch, not the day. It makes it very hard to decide when to call in home health, when to put them in a facility, or, when to call hospice. With dementia, there's so many things to deal with. When do you take the checkbook away? When do you take the car away? That's the hardest thing you can do, is take somebody's car away. Or when they are no longer safe in their home. So, if you wake at night to help your husband or a family member to the bathroom, you're a caregiver. Or if you arrange your schedule to fit your mother's doctor's appointments, and you're a caregiver. You're not alone. So it's a big decision if you're going to take care of your loved one at home. And it's not for everybody. Many outsiders feel that caregiving for an aging parent or spouse is a duty that is handed to you by way of relationship, and it's your obligation to fill it. That's entirely untrue. Even the marriage vows say, in sickness and health, does not state that you must take on the role as a caregiver, only that you will uphold your vow to continue to love, honor, and cherish. The OCA website says intense heavy-duty caregivers, especially spousal caregivers, do not get consistent help from other family members. One study has shown that as many as 3/4 are going it alone. 61% of intense caregivers experience depression. I think it's higher than that. 1/3 of all caregivers describe their health as poor, often indicating they're not sure if they're even going to outlive their loved ones. In those cases, there's 2 people at risk. And there's some things to consider if you want to be a caregiver. Are you a nurturer? What's your primary motivation for accepting the role? Family obligation, guilt, love, pressure? A lot of times pressure is placed on the oldest sibling, like, all right, it's your job, you do it. Or the one with no kids is the one that takes care of this. But I'm going to kind of shorten this since we're short on time. But, do you know your own limits? Is there available help? Is there money available for outside help to be called in? Are you able to set boundaries? I mean, do you have young children? Or teenagers? How would this affect your family life? Is your home appropriate for an aging parent or relative? If not, can you do remodeling? Is there unresolved anger? Are you physically healthy and strong enough? Are there any special skills that you need? If not, is it something you could learn? How to give insulin. Maybe somebody has a feeding tube. My father-in-law had a feeding tube because he had a tumor in his throat. Would you be comfortable with that? I mean, it's all stuff pretty easy to learn. You know, is your loved one financially able to contribute? You know, do you have enough support systems? But just learn as much as you can, and don't take on that caregiving journey alone. And honestly, you know, so many people say, well, I have all these people at church, they'll help me. No, they won't. They will help somewhat, but you can't count on them. We have an older lady at church that has no family. She said, I'm not worried about it. You know, she really cultivates the young people. She said, like pulse of the parish. I know everything going on. She says, these people are going to take care of me. I'm thinking, no, they're not. When we had all the parents, everybody said, oh, what can I do for you? But when it came time, it was like, oh, come sit with my dad, pray with him, whatever. No, doesn't happen. Now, our whole parish has changed now. And we do have people that, we just had a friend pass away. And several of the people in the parish did go over and sit and read the Psalms with them and pray with them. But don't expect them to help you clean their butt. It's just not going to happen. And sometimes you just have to put your loved one in a facility as much as you don't want to. You just have to make sure that the facility is a good facility, because they're not all the same, whether it's assisted living, nursing home, or hospice. Most of them are all for profit. And some are better than others. Some are just ridiculously horrible. So, make an informed decision, check them out, and then once you do that, you have to make sure that you're keeping an eye on what's going on. But if you do have to put somebody in a nursing home, get rid of the guilt. You've done what you can do. My daughter-in-law's funny. Well, first of all, when we told her we were doing